Let's talk about USC, and they're kind of going big game hunting in the recruiting space, and that's what Trojan fans expect, and I think that's excuse me, what they should expect. And a couple names that they've been tied to in the class of 2023: Malik Bryant, Nic Harbor, and then one of whom is on the offensive side of the ball of the three we're talking about, but that's Zechariah Branch. We'll get to him, but let's start with the two defensive guys. Malik Bryant, linebacker, a position where USC added Alabama transfer Shane Lee, but going forward, it's a place where they're going to need to recruit more so than they have in the past. So, do the Trojans have a decent chance here with Bryant?
I think a decent chance. His commitment's coming July 23rd, and I think that creates a little bit more angst. But look, you got him on campus, and you've got a puncher's chance at this point. His recruitment has shifted. I think 6 months ago, this was a very confident Florida Gator recruit from Orlando, which has a little bit of a Gator vibe to it in the state of Florida. And then it shifted towards Alabama. He took a trip to Tuscaloosa. Nick Saban latched onto him. He's a great pass rusher who could also play off-ball linebacker, something that Alabama's done as well as anyone in the country over the last few years. The vibe shifted there. Since it's shifted down to Miami a little bit, there's growing confidence in Coral Gables. So it's kind of this regional, local battle, SEC, ACC, and then there's USC, the total outlier. Malik is more of a reserved kid. He's going to do his own thing. So when you look at a kid who's going to go against the grain, obviously he needs to be talented enough to be a national recruit, but he also needs to kind of have that mentality like, I'm going to bet on myself. So I do think that he has the foundation of what you need to pull a kid away from the SEC and away from a top ACC contender like Miami for USC. I don't know how if the timeline helps or hurts the Trojans, but that buzz has shifted considerably more than once or twice. So I do think there's potential with almost a month until he pops for it to shift one more time. And USC certainly held his attention when he was able to get out to LA.
Nic Harbor is one of the top uncommitted prospects in the class of 2023, five-star edge guy, a little bit like Mateo Uyunglele. So if you're USC, who's very much in the running there, perhaps in the lead, as you were saying earlier, for Mateo at this point in time, it's not as if, it's not like a quarterback situation where you bring in one, you think, okay, we don't need to bring in any more. I mean, you take all the defensive linemen that you can get, and Alex Grinch, I'm sure, certainly knows that. So Harbor, I mean, he's kind of one of the biggest fish left in the pond right now for 2023. So where does USC stand with him?
They're right in the thick of it. And this is not only one of the most unique kids, talking 6'4", 6'5", running a 10.29 100-meter dash, but also one of the most unique recruitments where it's like nobody really has a great idea of where this kid is leaning, mainly because of track. He wants to play football and run track. So you wonder if the development in one sport, meaning track and field, could hurt in the other sport, as he's an edge prospect that probably will need to gain some weight. But this is one of the twitchiest, fastest, freakiest, any adjective you want to throw out there. He's one of those guys who you just kind of have to double take. You head turn towards him like, wait, 10? He's running 10.2 with the size of like Jadeveon Clowney. Like, what do you mean? Like, he is so
Jeez.
unique. He is so unique as a prospect that it's created a true fever pitch of buzz. It's like he's like the defensive Arch Manning, where it's like people just want to shoot their shot with him. He's recently narrowed the list though. Oregon, where you understand the track vibes there. USC are the West Coast options, and then back in the East Coast, there's like Georgia, Alabama, and Michigan. It's totally a wide open and unconventional recruitment in both his athletic profile and the schools he's looking at, and not to mention the desire to run track. So it is a totally unique recruitment. I don't believe there's a concrete decision date set just yet. So I get the sense he's going to take visits well into the fall, and that could keep his recruitment as kind of um, unknown as any big time recruit maybe that we've seen in the last few years. Usually it's like this school is the lead, maybe this is the top contender. With Harbor, it has shifted and changed over multiple months, and I think that's going to continue during the season if he's still uncommitted, which is what I would expect at this point.
The guy who you told me earlier is rated as your top slot receiver in the class of 2023. Right now is verbally committed to the Trojans. That's Zechariah Branch. He's part of the the two prospects in the top 10 in next year's recruiting cycle that USC has right now. Of course, joining Malachi Nelson, who is, I think, I'm not saying Arch Manning is not going to be very good, but from what I've seen so far, if I had to choose between the two, I would go with Malachi Nelson. And Trojan fans are hoping he'll be throwing the ball to Zechariah Branch, and he's committed to the Trojans right now. But you had some news on that front.
Yeah, he took a visit to Texas A&M, kind of out of left field. I mean, look, A&M's been able to pull California talent, but really since Branch committed to USC very early on in the Lincoln Riley tenure, there really hasn't been any information regarding his recruitment. He's a Bishop Gorman kid in Vegas, so he can swing up to Los Angeles, excuse me, pretty easily and consistently. His older brother is on the Trojan roster as a safety, one of the best safeties in the class last year. So nobody really glanced at other schools trying to talk to him, although Florida, Texas A&M, Alabama, a lot of schools certainly understand his talent. And again, number one slot receiver in the country. I mean, true juice at that position that likens a little bit to Mario Williams, ironically, the USC slot receiver of today. But then all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago, he sets this official visit to Texas A&M. He took the trip this past weekend, and I got to say, earlier today, I got a phone call. There's a little bit of confidence that's building in College Station with the potential to flip him. I don't think it's the most likely scenario. Maybe he takes other visits and he's just doing due diligence because, look, everyone expects, with your brother there and with that being the school and bringing in Lincoln Riley for your skill set, everyone just kind of thought, USC, nobody else in this recruitment. So maybe he wants to do due diligence to push against that. And other schools will get him on campus for visits. That remains to be seen. But he took the A&M trip, and they feel a little bit better about their chances for a flip. And obviously, having signed the number one class just a year ago, I mean, that's never a school anybody should look past on offense or defense. I mean, last year they signed Evan Stewart, arguably the number one receiver in the country, and that was an upset. A lot of people expected him to end up elsewhere. So it's not just great defensive players that are being brought in to College Station. So it's certainly something to keep an eye on from the USC angle. But, his brother's on the roster, Lincoln Riley. He's tight with Malachi Nelson. I mean, there's a lot of things still pushing things the Trojans' way very heavily. But obviously it's recruiting, and these are teenagers. These things can change in a hurry. So just something to keep an eye on.